Hi, Terry here. Welcome back to my journey through my Action and Superman covers. We're in 1961, part 2. If you would like and subscribe, that'd be brilliant. I'll give you a few seconds to do that, that'd be lovely. Thank you very much. Right, what we'll do, we will start with Superman 146 July cover date. That, as you can see, is the complete story of Superman's life. Managed to get a very decent copy of this, thankfully, because it is quite sought after and quite expensive. Cover art was by Curt Swan and Sheldon Moldoff, and this story was written by Otto Binder and the art was by Al Plastino. I am surprised that Jerry Siegel didn't write this story, being as he was one of the creators, but there you go. He did though write the second story, Superman's Greatest Feats, along with Al Plastino doing the art as well. Then we have Action Comics number 278, July cover date, by Curt Swan. And the cover story was written by Jerry Coleman and the art was by Curt Swan and Stan Kaye. The Supergirl story was called The Unknown Supergirl, and it introduced a character behind the scenes, as they say, Lesser La, who was starting her campaign against Supergirl that carried on for quite a number of issues. It was one of the very first multi-part stories in Superman comics. There was one other that went on for a lot longer, and that's, they say was the very first one. If you could let me know what that one is in the comments, I will do a little prize pack of comics if someone can tell me. I will give you one clue. I'll give you two clues. It wasn't a DC character, but it became a DC character. The next is issue 147, August cover date. And as you can see, we have the Legion of Supervillains. And this was the first appearance of Cosmic King, Lightning Lord and Saturn Queen. The first story, Curt Swan and Stan Kaye did the cover art. The first story was called The Great Mento, written by Robert Bernstein and Al Plastino. The second story was Krypto Battles Titano, which I believe is the third appearance of Titano. And the third appearance, by Jerry Siegel and Al Plastino. And the cover story, The Legion of Supervillains, as I've said, was the first appearance of those three characters. The three superheroes actually were meant, or were hinted at, in Action Comics number 267. Next we have Action Comics 279, August cover date. This one cover was done by Curt Swan, Stan Kaye and Irish Schnapp. The Super Rivals was the cover story there, as you can see, and that was by Robert Bernstein and the art was by John Forte. Now we had the next issue was Supergirl's Secret Enemy by Jerry Siegel and Jim Mooney, and as I said earlier, it was the first appearance of Lesser La. But Supergirl knew nothing about this, not until over, what was that, 18 issues, issue 297. But it also, more importantly, was the first appearance of Fred and Edna Danvers, who obviously adopted Linda, and it was stuck this time. The next book that was issued was the Superman Annual number 3. This had a what was the cover date on this one? Yeah, sorry, this was an August cover date as well. And the art was done by Curt Swan. And the annual was another one of those ones that contained very new-ish stories. The oldest one was December 57. But most of them were September, well, most of them were in 59. So, you're only talking about a couple of years old, which is a bit weird. The only story in this book I haven't got because most of them come from Action Comics, was Lois Lane, number 8, and that was from April '59. But to say that's the only story in this book that I didn't have. Then we have Action Comics number 280, September cover date. And that's Curt Swan, Stan K and Ira Stamp, the cover for that. And the cover story was done by Jerry Siegel, Curt Swan and Stan K, as you can see, another Brainiac appearance. And then the Supergirl story was Trapped in Kandor. Again, this is the continuing story from the last few issues. They also included a retelling of her origin. We then have Superman number 148, and the stories in this, well, I say the cover was by Curt Swan and Stan K, and the stories in this, one of them was called The 20th Century Achilles, written by Edmund Hamilton. The art was by Curt Swan and George Klein, but it was a recycled story from Superman 63 from March 1950, and it was written by Edmund Hamilton, but the art was by Wayne Boring and Stan K. And then we had Superman Owes $1 Billion, and the IRS are after him. And this again was another recycled story. This one in this book was written by Robert Bernstein, and the art was by Curt Swan and Sheldon Moldoff. But it was recycled from an issue I've got, which I've already spoken about back in the 1957 episode. And it was from Superman 114, which was done by Otto Binder, and then Wayne Boring and Stan K did the art. The cover story, the Mick Yez-Bitalik story, that was written by Jerry Siegel, and again art was by Curt Swan and Sheldon Moldoff. Excuse me, it's very, very hot, and everything's sticking to me. We've got Action Comics number 281 next, and that's October. Put me down there, that's easier. October, that's also by Curt Swan, and yet again another recycled story. The cover of the story, it was by Robert Bernstein and Al Plastino, and the title was barely changed either. It was called The Man Who Saved Kal-El's Life, that's on this one, and the other one was called The Man Who Went to Krypton, but it came from Superman 77 from July 1952, but it's basically the same story. Even the character you can see there, the Doctor, even he looked the same in that story. And the Supergirl story, The Secret of the Time Barrier, Jerry Siegel and Jim Mooney, and this issue also had the results of Linda Lee's hairstyle last 4 in issue 273. Now this is quite a historical book. Superman 149, November cover date. Curt Swan and George Klein doing the cover. And this was the last 10 cents issue. And another, is this the third one we've seen? Another Death of Superman story, written by Jerry Siegel. And the art was by Curt Swan, George Klein and Sheldon Moldoff. They all got in the act on that one. And then we have Action Comics 282, again another historic, because this was the last 10-cent issue of this book as well. Curt Swan did the art for the cover. Cover story was by Bill Finger and Al Plastino. And the Supergirl story was called Supergirl of Tomorrow, and it was the 5th instalment of the Lesser La story. Then we have Action Comics 283, December cover date, and of course, as you can see, it's a 12-cent issue, so this was the first 12-cent issue. And the cover was by Curt Swan and Stan K. As I said, the page count had been going down over the years, but this is the first price increase since 1939 as far as Action Comics was concerned. But obviously they started with, I think it was More Fun Comics in 1935, and obviously that had been 10 cents, and if that had still been coming out, that would have gone to 12 as well. So after 26 years they finally put 2 cents on it. And in this book, along with a lot of the others 12-cent ones, there was a letter apologising, a full page letter, I think it was in the inside cover, apologising for the 2 cents raise and the reasons for it all. It seems incredible nowadays when we're paying $4.99, $5.99 and $6.99 for comic books. And also, as you notice, the 9D mark, the British 9D mark, was still there, so we were still paying the same as we were when they were 10 cents for a while anyway. And then, last but not least, we have the Giant Superman Annual number 4. I love the way they call them annuals, and yet they brought out 2 a year, but there you go. This cover date was December 61, January 62, so it's all crept into 62 now. Cover was by Curt Swan and George Klein, and the stories in this annual are a little older than in previous, which was good. A couple come from 1952, and there's one from 53 and 54. Also, this had a feature about the origins and the powers of the Legion of Superheroes, or at least the ones we had met so far. And that is it. Thank you very much for watching. As I said, if you like and subscribe, that would be brilliant. And I will see you in 1962. Thank you very much.